You know that feeling, right? Maybe you've walked into a store and seen those dusty shelves, products nobody seems to want.
Oh, yeah.
Or you try ordering something online and bam, completely out of stock.
Right.
Well, for businesses, that's not just like an annoyance, it's a huge financial drain. We're talking about that universal business struggle,
Yeah.
managing inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, the real headaches come from excess stock and worse, obsolete stock.
Absolutely. It's money just tied up, isn't it? Goods that aren't moving, frantic calls about stockouts. It hits the bottom line hard.
Precisely. Those terms you hear, excess inventory, obsolete inventory, there are way more than just accounting labels.
Oh, definitely. They represent, significant capital locked away. And that leads to steep holding costs.
And forces businesses into, well, desperate measures sometimes, like
Right.
selling off perfectly good surplus at a massive discount.
Exactly. I mean, sure, it clears some space, maybe frees up a little cash, but it always, always eats into profitability.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty clear picture of the problem here. It sounds quite challenging. Is there a way out? A better solution? Or are businesses just sort of stuck in this cycle?
Oh, there absolutely is a solution. And it really comes down to being proactive with inventory management. The key, accurate demand forecasting.
Okay, accurate forecasting.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive today. We're going to explore how businesses are using, well, advanced strategies and some really cutting-edge tech.
Like AI.
Exactly, particularly AI,
Yeah.
and also integrating external economic intelligence. We'll see how this can completely transform inventory management, slash costs, and give companies a real competitive edge, especially now with how volatile markets are.
Okay, let's unpack that. Before we jump into the fancy AI stuff, maybe we could quickly set the stage for listeners. Like, what do we actually mean by these different inventory types, and why is getting it wrong so costly?
Good idea. Yeah, let's break it down. Think of inventory in, say, three main buckets. First, you've got your healthy inventory.
Right, the stuff you plan to sell.
Exactly. That's the stock you're pretty confident you'll sell.
Yeah.
Based on your best forecasts. Then there's excess inventory.
Yeah.
That's where you've got more stock plus your safety buffer than what you actually forecasted you'd need.
Got it. And last one.
And finally, the dreaded obsolete inventory. That's the real dead stock. Items that have just sat there, maybe in a warehouse with zero demand, usually for about 12 months or more.
Okay. And I suppose a little bit of excess. Maybe that's okay for really fast-moving products, just to be safe.
Yeah, sometimes. But it gets risky really fast when we're talking about items that are slow-moving or where the demand is just all over the place, volatile or maybe declining.
Products nearing the end of their life cycle, maybe.
Precisely. And what's interesting, or maybe frustrating, is how often this risky inventory piles up. It often comes from really common, yet critical missteps.
Like what?
Well, poor demand forecasting is a big one. Sometimes it's a sort of knee-jerk reaction trying to mitigate supply risks. Maybe your supplier lead times are all over the map. Or sometimes it's just this overzealous drive for 100% stock availability no matter the cost. Complex supply chains, multi-tier or multi-site ones, they definitely complicate things too.
Right.
And frankly, sometimes it's just plain bad inventory management decisions.
We often hear about the cost of holding too much inventory, but I wonder if businesses truly grasp just how huge that financial drain can be. Can you break down those holding costs a bit more? What's really involved?
Yeah, it's much more than just, the rent on the warehouse space. You've got the warehousing fees, sure, but also insurance, labor costs for handling it, and a big hidden cost, value depreciation. Goods just sitting there lose value. Studies estimate these costs can average, get this, 20 to 30% of your total inventory value every single year.
Wow, 20 to 30%.
Yeah. So imagine a company sitting on, say, $1 million in inventory just because of inefficient forecasting. That could mean an extra $300,000 a year
Yeah.
just in holding costs.
That's staggering. And okay, that's the cost of having too much. But what about the flip side? Not having the stock people want. That's lost sales, right?
Exactly. Stockouts mean direct lost sales. In retail, that can be as high as 10%. But it's actually worse than just that one lost sale.
How so?
Well, nearly a quarter of customers say they'll switch to a competitor if they experience a stockout. They just go elsewhere.
Ouch. Loyalty hit.
Big time. And internally. Poor forecasting bloats your labor costs too, potentially, by as much as 20%, because you're misallocating resources all through the supply chain. People scrambling, inefficient work.
Plus, those wonky demand signals you're sending out, they don't just cause internal chaos, they damage relationships with your suppliers, too. I think I read it affects something like 70% of supply chain professionals.
That sounds about right. Yeah, suppliers hate unpredictable orders.
So if we connect all these dots, these aren't just little inventory glitches, are they? They ripple out, they affect cash flow, operational efficiency, overall profitability. It's really a foundational business problem.
That's precisely it. And it's exactly why we're seeing such a major shift in how businesses are tackling this now.
Mm.
AI. Well, AI is really coming to the rescue here.
Okay, AI-driven demand forecasting.
Yeah, it moves way beyond the traditional methods, the ones that mostly rely on just historical sales data and pretty basic statistics.
Right, looking backwards.
Exactly. Instead, AI can analyze these massive, complex data sets. It can spot really intricate consumption patterns, things humans might miss, and predict future demand with what's honestly proving to be unprecedented accuracy.
Okay, unprecedented accuracy. That sounds like a big claim. What specific AI tech is making that possible now? What's changed?
Well, it's down to really sophisticated algorithms, machine learning, and particularly deep learning models.
Like what kind of models?
For instance, you have things like CNN's convolutional neural networks. They're great at finding spatial patterns in data. Think about how maybe product placement on a shelf influences sales. And then there are LSTMs, long short-term memory networks. They're really powerful for analyzing time series data, spotting trends over time, seasonality, that sort of thing.
Interesting.
And many solutions now use hybrid models too, combining the best of traditional stats with these AI approaches. The key thing is they can juggle a huge number of variables: weather, promotions, social media buzz, economic indicators, you name it.
And they adapt in real time.
Yes, they learn and adapt as new information comes in. That capability alone can boost forecast accuracy by a massive 30 to 50%.
Wow.
And if you combine historical data with real-time insights, think data from IoT sensors, social media feeds, point-of-sale systems, you can often get another 15 to 20% bump in accuracy on top of that.
Those are seriously impressive percentages. But okay, for a business owner listening right now, what does that 30–50% improvement, or saving $800 per percentage point, what does that actually look like on the ground? Maybe for a mid-sized company over a year. How fast does it add up?
Let's make it really tangible. So there was a study showing AI-driven forecasting took average accuracy from about 75% up to around 90%.
Okay, a 15-point jump.
Right. And that translates directly into big financial benefits.
Right.
Let's say a company was typically carrying, $50,000 in inventory costs per period because of forecast errors.
Right.
With AI getting that accuracy up, maybe that drops to $35,000. That's a $15,000 saving every single period.
Per period, okay.
And remember that figure, for every single percentage point increase in forecast accuracy, businesses see an average drop of $800 in holding costs. So even a, say, 10-point accuracy improvement, that's not just a stat. That's $8,000 saved per period just on holding costs. And that accumulates incredibly fast over a year.
That's really significant cash. Okay, so that covers holding costs. What about other impacts? Like, does it help with stockouts or how efficiently products move?
Oh, absolutely. Operationally, the improvements are just as striking. Companies using AI have seen stockout frequency drop dramatically, maybe from around 12 incidents down to just 7.
Fewer empty shelves.
Fewer empty shelves, fewer lost sales, and inventory turnover rates. That's how often you sell and replace your entire stock. They improve significantly too. Maybe going from turning inventory 4 times a period up to 6 times.
Moving product faster.
Much faster.
Yeah.
And AI has been shown to cut the number of out-of-stock items by as much as 32%. Plus, each extra inventory turnover can shave off another $300 in costs on average.
Wow.
The overall savings potential is just huge. For every 1% improvement in under forecasting error, meaning you didn't order enough companies, can save around $3.5 million. And for over forecasting ordering too much, it's about $1.4 million saved per percentage point improvement.
Those are massive numbers. It really underscores the cost of inaccuracy.
It really does.
And this brings up another important angle. What about sustainability? Does getting forecasting right play a role there too?
It definitely does. Yeah, accurate forecasting is a big contributor to broader sustainability goals. Think about it. If you only produce or order what's genuinely needed, you drastically cut down on waste.
Right, less stuff ending up in landfill.
Exactly. I mean, the Food and Agriculture Organization estimates nearly a third of all global food produced is wasted. Better forecasting helps tackle that. Plus, it means lower energy consumption for warehousing, less need to extract raw materials, and fewer transportation emissions because supply chains are optimized. No unnecessary shipments.
So it's really a win-win. Good for the bottom line, good for the planet.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've established AI is incredibly powerful for analyzing a company's own internal data. But is that the whole story? Is it just about getting better at crunching our own numbers? Or is there another layer of intelligence businesses need today?
That's a really crucial point because just relying on your internal historical data, well, it's just not enough anymore. Not in today's markets, which are so unpredictable.
Things change too fast.
Way too fast. Consumer behavior shifts, geopolitical events pop up, economic trends change direction. A purely backward-looking approach just can't keep up effectively.
So what's the answer?
This really introduces a new paradigm, you could say. It's the need, the imperative, to integrate external economic intelligence, looking at broader macroeconomic indicators as part of your planning process.
External economic intelligence. Okay, what does that actually look like in practice? Can you give us an example of a tool or maybe an approach that does this well?
Yeah, a great example is a solution called BOARD Foresight. It really takes business forecasting to, well, a much more advanced level, precisely because it integrates external data, AI, and predictive analytics seamlessly.
Okay, board foresight. What does it do?
Well, for starters, it gives access to over 5 million global data sets. These are curated by their own in-house economists, so it's high-quality stuff. And it has this really powerful correlation engine.
Correlation engine.
Yeah, it intelligently figures out which external factors like interest rates or consumer confidence or commodity prices are most relevant and actually impacting your specific business performance.
Ah, so it finds the needles in the haystack.
Exactly. And what really sets it apart, I think, is its generative AI component. It doesn't just show you a correlation like interest rates went up, your sales went down. It actually explains the how and why, how these external factors influence your business. It makes really complex dynamics much more understandable.
So it's not just, here's the raw data. It's more like, here's what this data actually means for your company.
Precisely. And Foresight is also excellent for scenario-based forecasting. It lets businesses build out detailed scenarios, like a baseline forecast, an optimistic one, a pessimistic one.
Based on different external possibilities.
Right. You can bake in crucial external assumptions. What if employee wages go up by X%? What if interest rates jump or unemployment changes? You can even model the downstream effects of things like tariffs.
Wow, that's powerful planning.
It really is. And it's all powered by their global intelligence cloud. It's instant access to data from over 10,000 global sources, covering 168 industries and 8 major macro sectors.
Okay, that's foresight. And then you mentioned board signals. What's its role here?
Right. Board Signals sort of complements Foresight.
Yeah.
It focuses on delivering real-time, industry-specific economic indicators. It's tailored more for strategic planners, executives, people who need that immediate pulse check.
How does it do that?
It uses things like smart alerts to flag market volatility. It'll point out headwinds, potential negative impacts heading your way, and tailwinds, positive opportunities. This allows for really agile responses.
So you can react fast.
Much faster. And it also provides indicator reports that include an industry outlook score, giving a quick snapshot of where things are potentially heading for your sector, again, helping with those high-level strategic decisions.
What's really striking here is how these tools genuinely let businesses, as you said, look beyond their own four walls.
Exactly.
They can actually start to anticipate market shifts, make big strategic calls with more confidence, and maybe even turn all that volatility we keep talking about into an opportunity. It really does feel like a new way of thinking about business planning.
It is. It's a new paradigm.
Okay, this sounds fantastic in theory, but does it actually work in the messy real world? Do we have examples?
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about some real-world successes. They're quite powerful. Take Whataburger, the burger chain.
Sure, big in Texas, right?
That's them. Well, their big challenge was sales forecasting. It was pretty inaccurate, mainly because they relied too heavily on just their own past sales data.
The backward-looking problem again.
Exactly. And they also really struggled to accurately predict wages and staffing needs across all their different locations, which is obviously crucial in their business.
So what did they do? Did they bring in this external intelligence?
They did. They partnered with economists and started using Board Foresight to weave those macroeconomic insights into their process.
And the result?
Transformative, honestly. What Ariba can now actually quantify future sales potential tied to specific demographic areas. This dramatically improved their internal forecasting.
So much better.
Get this. Their finance team now forecasts store sales within a tiny 1 to 2% error margin.
Wow. That's incredible accuracy.
It really is.
Yeah.
And their HR team also got much better insights for human capital management, things like labor costs, retention, planning the right staffing levels. much deeper understanding.
Their director of financial planning, Pete Valadez, I think I saw his quote. He called it a game changer, right?
He did. He said, by incorporating external data and predictive analytics, we've been able to dramatically improve our accuracy and avoid missed expectations. And he even said they now fully embrace BOARD Foresight as our base model. That's a strong endorsement.
Definitely. Any other big names?
Yeah, another really good example is Kraft Heinz. They were facing huge challenges. Consumer behavior was shifting fast, more e-commerce, demand for convenience, plus all the market volatility from the pandemic.
Right, a perfect storm for forecasting difficulties.
Totally. They quickly realized their old historical forecasting just wasn't cutting it anymore. Couldn't navigate those new currents.
So how did they adapt? What was their move?
They deployed BOARD Foresight, specifically to build that market volatility into their planning process and to create these top-down, macro-level views of their markets.
And the outcome for them?
Significantly improved forecast accuracy. And for a company that size, they said, quote, a 1% improvement results in millions of dollars of cost savings or revenue growth.
Millions from just 1%.
Millions. They said they gained a whole new layer of understanding about what really drives their industry, and their planners became much more market savvy. Jack Connolly, one of their senior economists, put it nicely, BOARD Foresight really helps us bring a rigorous analytical approach to our forecasting.
It really shows the power of looking outside your own data. And they're not alone, are they? I think I've seen other big companies mentioned.
No, definitely not alone. You see other leaders making big strides too. P&G, for example, reportedly achieved a 15% inventory reduction using similar approaches. Amazon, obviously huge in logistics, has improved fulfillment efficiency. Nestle is using it for sustainability gains and cutting logistics costs. PepsiCo has boosted its operational agility. It's becoming a key strategy for many major players.
Okay, so the benefits are clear. The technology is powerful. What does this mean for, a business listening right now? What's the path forward to get this kind of optimized inventory? Are there hurdles?
There are definitely things to consider, yes. Let's talk about the path, but also acknowledge the hurdles first. Implementation isn't always simple.
Okay, what are those common roadblocks companies hit?
Well, first, you absolutely need high-quality data inputs. Garbage in, garbage out still applies, even with AI. And getting clean, reliable data isn't always easy.
Right. Data cleansing can be a big job.
Huge. Then there's integration. Getting these new systems to talk seamlessly with your existing ERP, your enterprise resource planning system, and your supply chain management tools, that can be tricky, especially if you've got older legacy systems that don't play well with others. They can really impede the data flow.
Tech integration challenges. Got it. What else?
And crucially, expertise. You need to cultivate specialized skills within your team, people who can manage these AI tools, interpret the insights correctly, and translate them into action. It's not just about buying the software. You need the people who understand it.
Right. It's building that internal capability, not just installing a program. Okay, so knowing those challenges, what are the strategic approaches that really work? How do you make this happen successfully?
First, you absolutely have to invest in the right technology. These advanced tools, AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, they're becoming indispensable now. It's not optional for leading performance.
Makes sense. What about data?
Leverage all your data. Don't just rely on history. Combine that historical perspective with real-time insights from all those sources we talked about, POS, IoT, social media, market data, so you can adjust your forecast dynamically as things change.
And you mentioned relationships earlier. Does collaboration play a role in this new approach?
It's absolutely critical. Sharing your forecast data, especially with your key suppliers, can massively improve responsiveness across the entire supply chain. Get everyone on the same page.
Okay.
And finally, remember, this isn't a one-and-done setup. Demand is always shifting. So you need continuous refinement. Your models have to be regularly updated with new data, monitored for accuracy, tweaked based on market trends and feedback.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process of learning and improving.
That makes sense. Now, one of the toughest parts for any big new initiative is getting buy-in, right? Especially from executives who hold the purse strings. How do you effectively dollarize this improved accuracy? How do you make the case in financial terms?
Yes. The crucial step. You've got to translate the technical wins into the language of the C-suite, which is money.
Right. Less about the algorithms, more about the ROI.
Exactly. So instead of just talking about metrics like MAPE, that's mean absolute percentage error, a common accuracy measure, but maybe a bit abstract for some execs,
Okay.
focus on the KPIs that directly hit the financial statements. Show the impact on inventory levels, obviously. Show improvements in OTIF, that's on-time and full delivery performance. Customers getting what they ordered when they expected it,
That has clear cost implications.
huge. And highlight reductions in SLUZ inventory, slow-moving, and obsolete stock. That's basically cash sitting dead on a shelf. Show how those costs are directly tied to forecast errors.
So you connect the dots explicitly.
You have to. Being able to say, look, this X% increase in our forecast accuracy
Yeah.
has directly delivered Y dollar amount in reduced holding costs or prevented Z dollars in lost sales. That gets attention. That secures resources. Showing the impact in dollarized amounts is key.
Okay, that's clear. What if a business is intrigued? They see the potential, but they're still a bit hesitant about making a huge full-scale investment right away. Are there ways to sort of test the waters first?
Absolutely. And that's often a smart approach. Many providers offer what you could call try before you buy models.
Like pilot programs.
Exactly. A common starting point is a proof of concept, or POC. It's usually a relatively low-cost, quick demonstration.
Right.
You use some of your actual data to validate if the approach and the technology look promising for your specific situation.
Okay, a quick validation.
Right. If the POC looks good, you might then move to something more in-depth, like proof of value or POV. This is typically a paid engagement, often involving collaboration with the provider's experts, maybe economists,
A deeper
a
dive.
much deeper dive. The goal here is usually to achieve a significant, measurable improvement in forecast accuracy on a specific part of your business, often targeting maybe 85–90% accuracy before you commit to a full licensing agreement. It's a great way to really prove the value and de-risk the bigger investment.
That sounds like a sensible way to build confidence. Okay, so wrapping things up here, bringing it all together, it really feels like accurate AI-driven demand forecasting, especially when you layer in that external economic intelligence. It's not just a nice to have anymore, is it?
Not at all. It's rapidly becoming an absolute necessity for businesses that want to compete effectively.
It seems like it moves way beyond just, managing stock levels better. It feels like a catalyst for a much broader digital transformation across the whole company.
That's a perfect way to put it. It really is about building a fundamentally more resilient, more agile, and ultimately more profitable business from the ground up.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, lots to think about, and maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you think about your own business, consider this. In this world that's increasingly data-rich, yet so unpredictable, what seemingly unquantifiable external factor out there, maybe something you haven't even thought about measuring yet, might hold the next key to unlocking your company's forecasting precision. And how will you start to even identify it?